I've got Reagan on tariffs, and
Oh yeah,
the whole clip of that, not just the commercial clip, which I think actually there's a
I've read the transcript for both, honestly, and the commercial is honestly a pretty good simplification of the
Mhm.
greater speech. It honestly maintains fidelity to the larger speech quite well, I'd say. It's a
there
pretty
is
succinct
there is one
summation.
part of it. There's one part of it I think that I don't recall. I don't think this was at all in the commercial. I guess we'll just start talking about the Reagan on tariff stuff because I think it is
Sure.
really interesting.
Oh, why not?
But one thing about it is he is explicitly making appeals, direct statements to support the idea that such powers over tariffs should not be in the hands of Congress, but in the hands of the president to make these negotiations. I find that actually to be the
Hmm
most
hmm
interesting part of what what Reagan's saying, because everything else before Trump, everything else he's saying was obvious. Overuse of these protectionist strategies is deleterious to us because we are reliant on a global economy. We're reliant on free trade. We're reliant on maintaining like meaningful trade relationships with countries like Japan, which the whole speech was about basically putting tariffs on Japan. But at the same time, you need to use those sometimes, but you can't use them all the time, and you can't use them for too long. They're valuable, but they're
Yeah.
a short-lived
It's a
tool.
tool, but it's not the only tool, and it's a
Right.
tool you can't just use constantly.
Right. I mean, before Trump, before maybe even the Tea Party, I would say
Yeah,
that
none
was
of that was
obvious.
controversial
Yeah.
or yeah. It was common sense.
For
We were just I mean,
at
we're
that point, for like a common sense for like I don't know, almost 100 years. Like,
then again, people still think that the president controls the fucking gas prices and shit, and somehow like that's one of the biggest deciding factor in electoral politics, even though it's a fucking one of, if not the largest global commodity market, like global we
mm,
traded commodity. Just
yeah.
don't understand how people can't understand that. Like,
Well, but then again, if you have a country with enormous economic power, global economic power, like the United States,
we do.
and you give the president unilateral control over huge levers of power with regard to the economy, with through tariffs and other forms of unilateral trade deals and actions that the executive has been taking, not just through Trump but Biden,
It's been
Obama, Bush.
increasing year by year. Like, yeah,
Right. It's on steroids right now in a lot of ways, and it's being set
100%.
to enrich a smaller subset of deeply terrifying racist people. But it's something that's been around for a
It's
minute.
been narrowing. It's reaching its logical conclusion of it just becoming a fucking oligarchy. It's
Mm,
funneling the number of players down and the amount
mm.
of control up. So, like, this was the inevitable conclusion of all these systems
Right.
in play.
If you give all that power to the president, he kind of does have the ability to set the gas prices, though, doesn't he? Like if you empower him thusly, he is
To a
able to do that.
degree, but there are antagonistic forces with as much or greater control on that particular market that very much have their own agenda,
Unless they're your buddies.
that, unless they're your buddies. Yeah,
And
hence,
it's not
what
hard
is
for
it?
American presidents to be friends with the oil industry.
Kandahar Bush, was that
I mean,
his nickname? Like
I think that's right.
something like that. But
So
yeah,
it's like it kind of does come down
uh,
to like, at a certain point, if you invest that much ability into the president, like if Reagan is able to make this appeal, and he was actually able to, um, so he's making a direct statement that these powers should be in the hands of the presidency. after this is in 87, by the way, that this statement is
Okay.
made. And in 84, the Trade and Tariff Act was signed, and that gave him those powers. So he's defending here something he's already actually done. He's already Reagan in this at this point has already given himself these abilities, this ability to negotiate in this way with tariffs. 3 years
So he's
before,
just winning the propaganda war at this point. This
yeah,
is the justification. This is the selling of what's already been done.
right, exactly. Well, and later in the year, I think it's actually maybe signed at the start of 80. No, I think it's at the end of 87. There's another there is another tariff act which balances some but codifies, like pulls back a little bit as far as giving Congress a little bit of oversight, but it's not
Yeah,
meaningful
yeah.
active oversight, which is the same problem that we have, uh, you know all over our checks and balances systems, especially when it comes to empowering the executive. But it basically codified further the Trade and Tariff Act from 84 in a lot of ways. So this whole
Gotcha.
speech, it's interesting because this speech is in the context of Reagan sort of enabling Trump to do exactly what he is doing with the tariffs. So I don't know if people are getting exactly what they
Mhm.
should be getting from this, because at the same while Reagan does describe tariffs correctly, he is also trying to empower himself and thusly Trump to be able to use tariffs as a cudgel.
Yes, he very much has an agenda with that. It's accurate, but slanted.
Hmm. Hmm.
Largely accurate. But I mean, like, you have to any good lie or any good propaganda has to have the truth to it.
Hmm.
Gotta have that nugget of truth to build around.
Well, and there is at least some qualitative difference between Reagan justifying the president being able to use tariffs in the way that he's describing tariffs, and Trump using them for his like personal revenge tour across the world.
Oh, wildly different.
Yeah,
Wildly different. Yeah.
yeah, it is, that is definitely worth pointing out. But I think it is I think it's important for people to know some of that context and recognize the end of that speech as a,
Yes.
again, call for solidifying power around the executive and taking it away from Congress, the power of the purse, which itself
Yep. So
kind
many
of
of the problems that we find ourselves under having can be traced straight back to good old Ronnie.
mm, to Ronnie, and also just like a rising, like again, to go back to a trope that we've carried on, I think, for the last couple of months, or at least that I've definitely been banging on about, that
Mhm.
I've dragged you along into these conversations. But um people not representing their constituents, and instead representing a viewpoint of their party, this is part of the deleterious effect. Is you will have a representative of your party in the highest seat of power in the country, in the executive, and if you're fighting for your party, why wouldn't you be fighting to enable that guy? Why wouldn't you capitulate to that guy that is already going to be the biggest
Yeah.
celebrity in the country? You know what I mean? Like, that's the
Yep.
dude.
It becomes party over country at that point, and I mean that's where
Mhm.
they've found themselves for demonstratably
Mhm.
for quite some time now. Like, was it David Frum that said if conservatives what was that line about they're not going to abandon conservatism, they're going to abandon democracy.
Yeah, yeah. I think was that from. That wouldn't surprise me. From's weird.
So a little bit, yeah.
From's one of
Yeah.
these guys that like nobody should like, but you should probably like read.
Listen to every now and again, yeah.
Yeah, it's at least you're gonna learn something, whether it was intended or
Yeah.
not, whether it was the intended lesson or not by From. You're gonna learn something.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. an accurate depiction. Yeah, there's definitely a